Hey guys, I got some more post-processing shaders here. A rain effect, heat effect, motion blur and night vision, and I've also got a sort of working aurora as well, so that's adding to the existing ones. Now it was a bit tricky. I was trying to get them all sort of work together at the same time, if you know, for any mix that you want to multiple ones working at the same time as much as possible. That's not so easy. Some of them won't actually work together. So for example, fisheye won't work with drunk and underwater. So if you want to use both of them at the same time, the last one will override the previous one. So because it's a dedicated just for that effect. I mean, you probably wouldn't use all three together anyway, really. And if you had, say, if you had fisheye or drunk and then you went underwater, I mean, yeah, I mean you'd be happy with just sticking to the underwater effect anyway, I think. Now with those, you can have partial blending. The ones here, any one of those can partially blend with any of those four here as well. Partial blending meaning between 0 and 1, between 1 and 99%, between 0 and 99% blending of these shaders with the previous ones. So these run first because they redo the actual main color each time, and then so you can pick one of those and then partially blend with one of these if you want, and then you can add any of these other ones to it. So these are just an additive blend. They'll just add to it. These will be a percentage blend, and these are just singular by themselves. So one of those plus some of that plus any of these, you can so I try to make it as use as many as possible at the same time if you wanted to, you know, theoretically. Now some of these are only partial blending because I couldn't make them additive blending because it changed the effect too much. So motion blur, it's really its own little thing, but you can choose a certain percentage of it, like 50%, and then add that to, you know, one of those. You can do that, and then add these on top of it. So in other words, these really are designed to be their own independent at 100%. So I'm looping using a loop function, which is HLSL function that so it takes, based on this figure here, it'll take a percentage of this one and then 1 minus the percentage of the other one. So if you want 10% here, it'll take 10% of that and then 90% of that and add it together. Basically, that's how it works. So that was the best I can come out with these ones in terms of blending anything. But these are all right. You can mix and match as many of these as you want, actually, because they're all additive blending. So what that means is it takes whatever main color that was previously outputted from any above shaders, adds to the existing color, and multiplied by the intensity of how much you want it, and then because you're adding two, in some cases two of the same color together, it just divides that result by the 1 plus intensity to get the actual brightness back to the way it was. So that works. That's all working pretty good. The rain effect, that's probably the nicest one, actually. It's pretty good, actually. So I've already showed you these ones. I guess there's no point going over that again. Motion blur, let's try that one. So I've got a cycle effect here that just cycles between 0 and 1 and back again. So just for test purposes, that is, you can just see that working. That's a variable that gets updated between 0 and 1, that's all it is. So if we update that, run it, you can see you've got the number on the screen. Okay, so not much motion blur there, but as we get closer to 1, we're getting motion blur. See that? As you move, that's what it's designed to do. So you can change it, you know, to whatever percentage you want. You can fix it, you can fade it in if you want, or not. So it's got a bit of a blur effect there. It works better if you run it independently and by itself. So it's in other words, it's partially blending. So you can see the blur? There's a blur there in the movement. It's not as good as if you had it separately and independent as the first few ones. Yeah, it's a new main color, fisheye drunkard motion blur. It's set up to be lerped or partially blended, but if you're not happy with it, you can remove the lerping and just put main color equals motion blur, or just change that motion blur, remove float through motion blur and just put main color instead equals this, and that'll be the it'll look a little bit better that way actually. But if you wanted to combine some stuff, I've by default left it as a partial blend. In GLSL, that's called mixing the two together. So it does work, but it's not as strong as having it, creating the final, redoing the main color again from scratch. Because using a lerp, it's taking a percentage of that, and outputting it each time. Unless you go up to, full 1, a value of 1 will take 100% of the motion blur, in other words. So in other words, at 1, there's no blending, it's just that. Yeah, so that one does work. It was freaking tricky to get working, I tell you. It's got some weird issues with CopperCube in terms of timing. This shader callback does not run smoothly at 60 frames a second at all. It's really unreliable. So I had to put the timing section in here. Animate function, that's running on every frame. Because there it is there. This registered function is to run every frame, and that will then give it a more correct timing feed. Delta time, different time that gets updated into the shader here. Alright, so that does work. Might have been a little bit hard to see, but it does work. Let's change to another one. Double vision you've seen before. It's a little bit different now because I've made it to a partial blend. So does that mean it's not going to work as good? Not quite as good as it was before. I mean, you can, like I said before, you can change that so it's a unique thing by itself. Double vision partial blend. See, it's got the loop. Oh, that's actually not a partial blend. That's additive. Taking the main color, adding whatever that is to the existing result, times the intensity, then dividing that, that's actually additive actually. So you'll see that the double vision here is a little bit different to the way it used to work. It still works, it's just because it's combining the previous main color, adding to this color, it's a little different. So I'll just show you that. If you don't like it, you can just, like I said, put it back the way it was, but double vision will cycle that between 0 and 1. I'll show you that now. So it is a little bit different, but it's not too bad. See, it's a little bit different. Interesting, I guess. Yeah, certainly interesting. Yeah, so it's going in and out because I'm cycling between 0 and 1 and back to 0 and then back to 1. Yeah, sort of like a funny looking blur effect actually. Yeah, I'm just cycling it for the for a demo. You can just have it a fixed amount if you want, which is fine. You just turn it on and off. Totally do that. Okay, so what's I'll show the motion blur night vision. Let's do that one. Now this is just information that's using a texture. Night vision uses a texture number 4. Freeze uses 3, the third texture. Heat uses a second texture. And there's a couple others up here that use a second texture as well. That second texture is, which will be in the download, that's the second texture. That one, that one, and that one. That's like a mask I'm using for the night vision actually. No, I mean theoretically I could use it for the torchlight effect as well, but you'll see. So this is daylight, so it's not going to work so good during the day. This is night vision obviously, so it's adding the color here, so that's fine. But it works better at night time, as you'd expect actually. Let's leave put the color, turn the lighting off here and here. You'll see that it works better at night time. So it's 20%, 40%. There you are. Maybe that's a bit too bright, isn't it? That's actually too bright, too intense. I probably should make an automatically exposure adjustment maybe on that one. Anyway, you can see how it works. It does work. Or you can just change the maximum amount you want to use for it. Yeah, so you can see it's using that fourth texture anyway to, yeah, that's obviously too bright. The intensity is a bit too much. Let me just fix that up. Night vision, okay, here it is. So that's additive only. It's using texture 3, so that's a fourth texture, just .r value, just to manipulate, multiplied by between 0 and 1 of black and white color. There's the night vision color, strength. Okay, well that's probably a bit too strong, isn't it? I would say. Maybe we could just drop it down a bit. I think it's meant to be 0.4. Why would that be? RGB. Yeah. Probably was a bit too high already. Strength, or this one. RGB. Is that meant to be 0.6? Maybe it is meant to be 0.6. Anyway, we can probably drop it here. 15 or something. Yeah. That might work a bit better. I probably should make an automatic adjustment for ambient lighting actually. I can do that because I did that with the spotlight. And it does work. So it looks a bit better. It's too bright still. Yeah, I'll leave it with me. I'll make an automatic adjustment with that one. You can see that it does work. What else we got? Okay, so just this shader runs by default, and every 30 seconds it's updating the cycle variable, and then I'm applying that cycle variable to whatever here I want. Okay, so night vision heat. Let's do that one. Uses a second texture. Okay, that's at night time. It's a bit dark. Not supposed to see too much during that, but you can see it's doing something. Let me brighten it up a bit. Let's put that on, that on. It's pretty bright, that'll do. There you go. That's not bad, is it? Not too bad. Yeah, I mean it's not perfect, but I would like it to be a little bit better, but it's not bad. Good starters, good for starters. Yeah. Not too bad. And the rain effect, that's probably my favourite one actually. So let's get that one running. Now that's also additive as well, so you can mix them as any of those you want, which is good. So we'll take that off there, put that to 0, and put rain up here. There we are. This gives an adjustable rain effect. It's small to start with, and the particles get bigger over time, the more intensity, and fastest drop speed as well. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So it's 20%, no, pretty much no percentage. 50%, you can see it. 100% is about now, yeah, and the colour changes as well. So it's quite nice actually, I like that one. Probably should be a little bit stronger effect. I'll try and improve that a little bit. Yeah, quite good. So they spent a bit of time on that. If you just wanted, you know, certain things to work ideally more perfectly, especially motion blur, just separate the code out to be just to create recreate the main color by itself. So in other words, don't use lerp, the lerp function, you know, if you're not happy with it. But I've set it up to make it as much as possible. You can use as many different shaders together running at the same time, actually. So that's the function for it, but the actual main code, there it is there, it's a lerp function. Yeah, so a lot of them do that. Partial blend, so you're lerping between the previous output colors, whatever shaders you're running or no shaders, to the output color of this particular shader, and just a percentage of each will be joined together, and it does work. But the additive one is the best because you can just add them all together, really, actually. Because what you're doing is you're taking whatever previous main color, then adding this color, which is it is a color, and most of the time you're adding the same colors together, but also the extra shader effect in some of the pixels. Double vision color, you're just adding it to that, multiplied it by its intensity, adding that back to here, and then to get the brightness back down again, you're dividing that back down by 1 plus the intensity, actually. So it's like this final output is the average between, it's a percentage, actually is a percentage, if you like, between the previous main color and the output of this shader itself, based on the intensity. If you had full intensity, then it would be 50-50. Actually, it's a 50-50. So that, yeah, so some of these shaders don't quite as strong as they used to run because of this additive blend. But I mean, you can improve the intensity of the additive blending ones here so that they basically look the same thing. For example, Dream, it didn't work before. Yeah, I had to spend a bit of time on that. There was some issues with that, but I fixed it up. And it does look about the same as it was before. I've made that additive blend as well. So it's not quite exactly the way it was before, but it's very close. I'll show you that. %, so it's like a dream, a softening blur, 100% there. Yeah, might not be quite as intense as the previous effect, but yeah, it still works. It's quite good. Yeah, like a dream blur effect, actually. I've just changed the color. You don't have to have green if you don't want to. That's a lot of different shaders. Actually, let's have a go at doing the Aurora. Okay, so here's a Aurora effect I'm going to run. Now I've got, at the moment, the way I've set it up is it's based on a mesh, of course. Aurora is only just for a mesh. It's not a post-processing shader. Very difficult to get that work with the post-processing shader. You'd have to have access to the depth buffer to do that. I don't have that, so I can't do that. Yeah, so with the Aurora shader, it's not a screen shader. It's just a 3D shader that's applied to a particular 3D mesh, which in this case it's just a little circular dome. And there's the information it's uploading. It's getting the time from my other shader. It's a global variable from the screen shader. So I haven't had to recreate the timing and stuff. It's just unnecessary to redo everything again. If you wanted to use this on a 3D mesh, yeah, you might want to just update the time on this here. If you're not using the screen shader, but you wanted to use this, yeah, you'll have to get the information out of the screen shader and just put the, you know, make adjustments to get the time updated correctly that way. But for what I'm doing, I'm getting that time. It's a global variable, so it won't run without the screen shader at the moment, the way I'm using it. Okay, so here's my interior. The shader's not running, so I guess P to press. That's it. Starts running about after about half a second. It's pretty quick. This Aurora runs pretty quick as well. I had to make a lot of changes to that. This is a very difficult one to get working. It doesn't look perfect, but it's okay. So it runs pretty quick. So it's got some nice colours there. Arguably that's a bit too strong, the colour. I need to probably, yeah, take a bit of contrast away from that. And also the effect it's doing, it's quite interesting, but you can see the lines and separations between it, I guess. Yeah, you could say that's not the best ever, but at least it does do something. It's a start. In the beginning, I had after a long time of mucking around with it, I finally got it to work in CopperCube, but oh gosh, took ages to get that to work. But anyway, eventually got it to work, and then it was really bad performance-wise. It was terrible. It's like atrocious. And I realized it was because it was running the code. This here used to be at 60 iterations. So on every frame, it's doing an iteration 60 times over a for loop to run this bit of code. And that was killing performance. So I just changed it down to 30. And I can still get a reasonable output with 30. 50 is like your base minimum, you'll find. So that's the extension there. I'll just update that and show you. It'll be completely different now with 50, but the performance will be much worse. So in theory, you could, if you wanted to have, you know, different levels of performance of the shader, well then you would use that to update that figure. Yeah, so arguably, yeah, that does look a little bit better. It's not massively better, but it is better. The lines go up the screen more with the higher the number, actually, I've noticed. And also I'm using just a cheap sky dome, not a huge number of you know, polygons on it. So I've had to work out a way to, because the way it connects up, this is the shader does not, the start of the shader and the end of the shader at the texture coordinates do not line up. They're completely different. So I had to manually create a black line at the start and a black line at the end, and smooth effect between the two, like changing that blackness over time so you don't notice it. So the edges had to be blackened out. Actually, the top had to be blackened out as well because it was doing some weird stuff too high up. I was trying to reduce the height of the effect, actually. I've not been successful with that. But I'll let you guys have a play with it. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? See what you can come up with that one. I'll include it with the download as well. You can play with the numbers. There's a ton of numbers and stuff to play with. But yeah, anyway, I've explained the basics for you. You can have a look at that. But yeah, it does run. So at 30 iterations, it's not too bad. There is so every time you activate it, it freezes everything up. And on activation, what it's doing, it's compiling the HLSL code into compiled, I think it's called assembly maybe, but anyway, it's a special simplified version for the graphics card to run it much quicker, and that's the delay that locks up the system, and it's not a good thing really. I don't like it, but that's what happens. Yeah, if you run it at 60 iterations, it really locks it up for about 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. It's terrible. So in reality, you don't need to do that. You could just slowly, because you're uploading you could upload the iterations amount or the intensity, which adjusts the iterations as well. You could do it that way and then have it so there's no time delay in starting at all, and it just, you know, you just fade it up in quality over time to whatever you want. That's probably the best way to do it. So that's interesting, isn't it? Not perfect, definitely not. It's got some things a lot of things I would like to see better on it, but anyway, it's start, isn't it? Better than nothing. Don't like it goes all the way up there like that, actually. I haven't found a way to stop that as yet. But yeah, anyway, let us know what you think about it, and if you've come up with any better numbers that work better with it, let me know. I'm interested to know about that, actually, and I'll plug it in and have a look. Yeah, and, you know, changing the sky dome, the quality of the sky dome may have an effect as well. May have an effect on performance. Notice how my frame rate's gone down to 66. Oh, that's because I've changed the number, haven't I? That's why. I've changed that to 50. If I go back to, let's try 25 and see what else is like. Give that another try with that. And run it. Press P. Okay, so that's running. Activate Aurora. It goes to 90. 96. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe it is consistent. It seems to be consistent whether you're looking at it or not. But if I go outside now and only look at the aurora, it changes the frame rate. Well, at least it used to do that. I was definitely doing that before. Doesn't seem to be doing that now. Okay, well that's just weird, isn't it? This is using just default CopperCube. It's not using my compiled binary. But it should do something similar to that. Yeah, okay, so it runs about 90 frames a second. So it takes a massive hit on performance, actually, this shader. Yeah, it really does. A bit nicer to see if there was other ones out there that weren't so intense, performance intensive. Yeah, so anyway, I'll let you have a play with that. Let me know what you think. Cheers.